Formed from a famous talent show, they're an idol group on the rise with unstoppable momentum. The group is called Face, spelt F/Ace. They're our heroine's bias, with the pink-haired member, Tamo, dedicating this next part to all the girlfriends nationwide. Utage Kinoshita is blown back. She thought he was a god. She thought she was going to die, but with that close-up, she could probably live a few more years. Her family was one you might expect of the typical super idol-obsessed girl. Her parents thought it was nice that their daughter had interests, and that it was quite amusing. Her younger sister, Komare, thought she was crazy and scary, and her younger brother, Yamato, was looking down on Utage for never even having met her beloved Tama. He thought it was more practical to focus on his studies. At 16 years old, Utage was just a high schooler, indulged by her family, who saw her bias as emotional sustenance. She believed Taman could save the world today with his handsome face. She lined up her acrylic stands of him at the perfect angle, staring at her impressive collection of his merch. She thought not only could his face kill, but he was way too sexy to be a high school senior. He was Face's sexy and wild member, with top-notch dance skills comparable to professional dancers, and constantly impregnated girls nationwide in their minds? Hey yo, ladies, is that what you're thinking about your favorite idols like Jungkook or Jimin? Let me know in the comments for research. She smiled, staring at his appearance in the talent show 2 years ago, where he said he wanted everyone in the whole world to smile. She got startled, receiving the upcoming Face Dome concert lottery result notification. Giddy with anticipation, knowing the odds of getting drawn were 95 to 1, it was very hard to get. No matter what the result, she prepared to accept it. Her jaw dropped, seeing the message inside. She won! Utage's supervisor apologized, having called her to fill in on her day off. Miss Toda was currently in the hospital due to appendicitis, so Utage was asked to take care of her client during this time. Utage brightly accepted. She of course needed more money to support her bias. She started part-time housekeeping originally because it worked with her schedule, but now she's also gotten quite used to it. She saw her client's name listed as Tamon Fukuhara, the exact same name as her beloved Tamon. She drooled, imagining him whispering to her, "Keep it a secret from me, kitten," but knew there's no way her Delulu fantasy could be true. Entering the disgustingly dirty apartment, she was caught off guard by her client sitting fetal position in a corner, but easily recognized the face imprinted in her retina daily. With her telling him she was going to vacuum, he hid further into his hoodie and affirmed it was okay. She considered the idea he might be surprisingly introverted in private. She shortly came back to ask for the laundry detergent and found him curling and shaking over the fact he wasn't told someone so young would be coming. He couldn't get into idle mode at home. He didn't know what to do. She thought he was super gloomy, that she probably wanted a stink bug to kill him. He assumed the worst, thinking that she'd write a post making fun of him, that he was a friendless loser, that he'd become a laughingstock, and the fans who once supported would brand him a traitor. He imagined himself getting shanked at night and left to bleed out, and thought life would be better if he were never born. Watching him cry, Utage wondered if this guy really was Tamon. Was he really the visual serum Tamon? She tried coping as she worked, telling herself with the upcoming Dome concert, he must just be tired. She panicked, thinking he might retire from mental exhaustion. She'd die for sure. She admitted she's been a loyal follower since the talent show 2 years ago. And even knowing maybe she shouldn't say this, she told him she was glad he was born and decided to become a singer. He apologized, knowing since she liked him this much, seeing him now, her image of him must be shattered. He thought an imposter like himself didn't deserve anyone's support. Utage froze, thinking about all the fans who supported him just like her. She was angry, asking if he was looking down on their adoration. She brandished her idol fans and went into a delusional rant about how he turned their world into heaven, how he was handsome, smart, and unparalleled. To her, he was a god, and the idea of that was indisputable. She shouted, "Tamon is a god, an emissary of love who came down to earth for all young girls. He's also an angel." She wanted him to repeat after her, even if it was the man himself. She wouldn't bow down to a Tamon anti-fan. She didn't think someone with this kind of personality would want the image he portrayed on stage. And he didn't. It was the agency that set his persona. There is someone he looked up to. Though he thought of it as utterly presumptuous, he wanted to be like that person and make everyone smile. Utage remembered that's what he said at the talent show. She believed even if his cheerfulness was an act, it wasn't fake. His real intent was why he was able to move so many people. When she told him he wasn't an imposter, he got a vision of his manager telling him she didn't need the real him and to not show his true self to others. He curled up again, saying after he became popular, all sorts of people started criticizing him, so he gradually lost faith in what his fans said. He couldn't trust what he wanted to believe, and he felt so ashamed of himself for that. The person he trusted least of all was himself. He wanted to go deeper into the jungle or on a secluded island and live without humans all alone. But Utage would point out how he was just talking about his dream, and if he couldn't believe himself, she was going to keep supporting him until he did. She was going to cheer for Mr. Gloomy Hara. On the Face YouTube channel, Tamon introed himself as the missionary of love and positivity, the sexy and wild member of the group. And despite the next guy being the youngest, Aori Sakaguchi told the fans they could rely on him. He was the prince in the group. Natsuki Ishibashi was cheerful and cute. He was everyone's angel. Keito Tachibana loved rice balls. He was the leader of Face. And lastly, Rintaro Kai only coldly referred to himself as Kai-des. Utage was somewhat at a loss that this Tamon was the same guy. Doing the cooking, she was surprised to see how empty his fridge was last time. The trash was full of instant noodle bowls too. He quickly apologized for spending money recklessly and creating so much trash when he was trash himself. Utage didn't mean it that way. She was just impressed by how he could sing and dance while living like this. She presented his food, and he started to go into a panic, imagining a scenario where he'd choke on it and die. He saw her as a demon, but he'd quickly grab and eat the food turned away, and he turned back. Idle mode turned on! Leaning over her, he told her, "This is bad. This is just what I like. Can I lick it clean here?" This got Utage bright red. And even though he was referring to the fried chicken, she exploded. Utage Kinoshita, 16 years old, passed away today. Cause of death? Tamon was too erotic. Tamon went back into gloomy mode because she frightened him, but she argued she was the one who was frightened. She didn't know he could switch modes so suddenly. He apologized because he's been so busy lately that his switch sometimes acted up. He started hyperventilating and fell over. How much effort did it take to perfectly meet fan ideals? Even so, Utage thought he still did, and he worked hard to make everyone smile. She fed him spring rolls for dinner, and that day, during his show appearance, when the host told him he was giving off particularly strong pheromones, he answered it was because of the delicious tuna spring roll he had recently. Utage remembered, and Tamon got so embarrassed hearing himself say that on TV. Later, Tamon would shakily approach Utage, bringing up that his manager told him to take home selfies for the fan club, but couldn't switch modes at home. He needed her help. Utage, having learned Tamon instinctively responded to cheering fans, she pulled up her fan, and he instantly switched modes, telling her he was aiming for her heart. She ended up helping him get plenty of alluring home selfies, and had to slap herself to keep her hormones under control. He thanked her. Because of her help, he didn't have to throw up trying to take photos. However, Utage never got tired of seeing his handsome face. No matter what, in her eyes, he was the best in the world, and she went back down from that claim. As she began her leave for the day, he thanked her for everything, telling her it was like his mental state has been promoted from filth to old trash. Fans always complimented him, and every time he heard it, it made him happy. Utage started to tear up, and Tamon worried he said something wrong again. She told him he was misunderstanding. She wasn't getting complimented by Tamon, but instead by Gloomy Hara. So, she was especially moved. He turned back and told her it was all thanks to her for scolding him so often. Utage's heart beat rapidly as her bag dropped. She gushed, hearing Supernova song lyrics in her mind. But due to a misunderstanding, Tamon tightened his hoodie around his face, apologizing for his gross smile. She rushed, trying to uncover his face because it was such a waste. She ended up falling over him, drooling over his clumsy smile. But their moment was ruined by a visitor. Tamon's manager, Wataru, was furious, telling Utage to know her place. She apologized and ran out, wondering what she was doing. Being driven by her desires, she pounced on a national treasure. She felt guilty. She felt she shouldn't be supporting Mr. Gloomy Hara. It should only be Tamon. At school, Utage's friends read a news report about an idol being victimized by a stalker, claiming the stalker even came into his house and hugged him. When Riko said that's why she couldn't stand low-class girlfriend fans, Utage replied, "That's right. The girl was so out of line, she should die of stupidity." Yuina then flashed this month's Tamon photos, adding that the amount of skin shown was her happiness index. Utage went into a daze, gushingly thinking about how much of a zombie he was at home. With her falling over, her friends had no idea what was wrong. Utage didn't know what to do. These images kept replaying in her mind. The next time she saw him, she was sure she'd fall even harder. She was afraid she'd pounce on him again. Tamon would hear the doorbell ring and got up, excited to see Utage, but was instead met with Miss Toda, his usual housekeeper. He sighed and hid himself as she rambled on. Utage was glad Miss Toda was back from surgery. She felt it was time for her to go back to being a fan from afar. On the night of the Dome concert, Face gave their intro to thousands of fans. They would do their bit, with both Tamon and Aori blowing their kisses to the crowd. As the girls continued to cheer, Utage knew Face would definitely become the face of this era. As they performed their hit song Supernova, Utage screamed that Tamon was so cool, and Tamon heard it, finding the one sign in the crowd that was hers, reading Tamon Colt. It warmed his heart. During show intermission, Utage considered getting a drink before going home. She was excited and sad at the same time. She had mixed feelings. She suddenly got grabbed and taken backstage. It was Tamon, staring at her, sweating and gasping. He told her he saw her, and she started tearing up, hearing he recognized her amongst all his fans. He wiped her tears, telling her that he wanted to make everyone smile. Making her cry, he asked if it had to do with why she wasn't coming to his house anymore. He backed her against the wall, as she told him any fan would want to know him more. That's why she couldn't have him all to herself, or she might do something that would put him in a difficult position. He told her that was for him to decide. He didn't want her to say that. Grabbing her and putting his head on her shoulder, he wanted her to support him by his side, and he couldn't live without her anymore. She couldn't tell him no like this. She told him, okay, and he quickly jumped away, covering his face. So she scolded him, saying the show wasn't over, so he couldn't switch modes. He had to go back and finish, and that she'd be cheering him on. He turned back, face blushing as she left. She was also just as much of a mess. Skipping through the streets, Utage felt as thrilled as ever, all because Face was finally having a fan interaction event. Spending her life savings on all those CDs had to be worth it. She was going to need to scrub down her body extra hard and also get some new clothes, which meant she'd be working her butt off. As she walked into Tamon's house, she didn't expect to see him struggling with his manager, insisting that he wanted to retire. Wataru would have to take a call outside from another one of the idol members. Babysitting these kids was a real chore. On the other hand, tears were already rolling down Utage's cheek. Hearing that Tamon wanted to quit, the thought of a meet and greet made him so nervous, he felt he was gonna throw up. She tried to remind him of his dream of wanting to make everyone smile, but his mind would spiral, thinking about how he'd have to talk to so many people. He imagined his fans would be grossed out by his sweaty hands and say, well, mushroom farm. He didn't even understand what the hell sexy and wild meant. What's so good about a guy who could get arrested for sexual harassment at any time? Even questioning why people would use up their life savings to buy his CDs. Utage snapped. Who the hell was he to talk down about Tamon's hand sweat, or even breathing the air around him? She immediately calmed down, seeing how she almost pushed him down again. If he was going to do this, it had to be done right. Tamon wanted to do everything he could to not let his fans down. With that being said, Utage brought out a box filled with 2 years worth of magazines, interviews, blogs, and internet articles she had saved up. She also had documents of everything he had said on TV and in all the media. Even a sutra notebook that she used to feed her delusions. Wow, she is really delulu. Do any of you ladies do this? Leave it in the comments and explain. With all this, he'd probably be able to pull through, and she'd be able to attend the meet and greet in peace. He then asked her for some help with simulations for the event. Enjoying such bliss for free was something she could do. That was until he started calling himself trash. Now, she was ready to offer up all her time in this life and the next. Moments later, Utage tried to keep it together as she gave her support. Like a switch, idol mode was back on. Tamon pulled her in from the waist, telling her, I'll never let you switch Oshis. She was so excited that she exploded again, causing Tamon to return to Mr. Gloomy Hara. He apologized for hurting and relying on her so much. Honestly, this made Utage very happy. Whenever she was going through hard times, Tamon's face was always there to lift her spirits. So there was nothing that made her happier than being of help to him. She'd happily go through all the moments of her head exploding, and wouldn't mind giving up her life to support him. However, he'd use up too much energy, causing him to cough up blood. While he took a break, Utage let him know she'd be coming to the meet and greet as well. He hoped she'd be able to score his performance. With his cute expression, she'd explode once more. On the day of the meet and greet, the venue was stacked with girls who were all hyped up. Thousands of people, and they all loved Tamon. While he was making heads explode, Utage had to make sure her jealousy wouldn't ruin this day. Suddenly, two girls in front of her started arguing. Utage tried to remain peaceful, but she couldn't let such things happen when Tamon was here. Anyone who dirtied Tamon's divine ears had no place in this world. Unexpectedly, security would throw the three of them out. And just like that, Utage's paradise was taken. On the train ride back, she thought it was all good, so far as Tamon was happy. To make up for her losses, she planned to drown herself in work. Once she walked into the office, her supervisor pointed her to a special guest waiting for her. Of course, it was none other than Tamon. Definitely not an illusion. He was really upset about her not attending the meet and greet. Embarrassed, she claimed it was because she lost her ticket. Regardless, her promise needed to be kept. Tamon was willing to respond to any request she had. She asked him to be her Tamon for just this moment. His response? A cold no. Without even thinking twice, he reverted to gloomy Hara, complaining about how he wanted her praises. He was waiting that whole time so she could see the fruits of his labor, hoping it would make her happy. Surprisingly, this got Utage's heart racing fast. A perfect score for him. During lunch break, Riko and Yuina were talking about the meet and greet. Due to how close the idol group was getting to their fans, Yuina feared their bias might end up meeting a fangirl in private. If this happened, she and Riko happily agreed to kill the girl. As for Utage, she was dragged into their killing plans without a choice. Knowing full well she was the main culprit, she had to keep it a secret. When she got to Tamon's place, she'd see him crying by the corner of the room. Apparently, he'd soon be going on a show where the viewers would rate stylish celebrities. Hearing this, she was thrilled for him, but Tamon feared this was the end. The clothes he was wearing were the only clothes he owned. Utage would encourage him, saying the fans wouldn't mind his lack of fashion sense. Although she liked the gloomy Hara look, she didn't want to miss the chance to show off his great physique. So, they'd head off to buy some clothes. While she was waiting at the mall, he'd meet up with her with a paper bag over his head. Using all the info and perspective she had as a fan, Utage planned to come up with the best look. This was her duty. Taking a peek in the dressing room, she was knocked out by how hot he looked in these new clothes. No matter the outfit, he could make it all work. With one of the outfits, she'd have to help him with putting on a necklace. Afterwards, they'd head to a cafe, which Utage sometimes visited on her way home from school. Seeing the guys who were hanging out at another table, Tamon felt a bit jealous. Utage admired the fact that someone as amazing as him would enjoy stuff normal people liked. When it came to going out with his group, Tamon's expression said all she needed to know. Riko and Yuna suddenly approached her, causing Utage to panic. Tamon introduced himself as her friend, and Riko suspected he was her boyfriend and insisted he show his face. But he'd suddenly grab Utage's hand, and they'd run out through the streets, like this was some kind of secret date. Once they got away, Utage immediately apologized for putting him in potential danger from the paparazzi. For this, she was ready to receive capital punishment. She could never forgive herself, and vowed to stay at least 3 meters away from him from now on. He took off the paper bag, asking if she liked him. The answer was obvious, but she was still blown away to dust because of his handsomeness. A few days later, his outfits were praised as #1 for having a boyfriend look. When next she came to his apartment, he looked roasted. She'd immediately freshen him up to preserve his handsome looks. It turned out that he was trying to make a simple rolled omelet, but the outcome wasn't even decent enough to be shown. Tamon threatened to go on hiatus, just so he could learn how to fry an egg. Utage immediately reminded him that he was a top chef, whose best meal was making his fans smile. This encouraged him for some reason. Wataru walked in at that moment, applauding her for being able to drag Tamon out of his nervous breakdown mode. Who'd have thought hiring a housekeeper could rehabilitate him this much? He'd been working obediently lately, all thanks to the chores lifted off his shoulders. Wataru asked her how much counted as household chores, and she answered that it was pretty much anything, even going shopping and taking pets for a walk. Somehow, he could tell they practiced for the meet and greet, and even went shopping together. Utage and Tamon quickly got on their knees, apologizing. To their surprise, Wataru also knelt, begging her to keep helping with Tamon. The truth was, they were a small agency with no connections, so Wataru was happy to dump the depressive zombie on her. Basically, she had to go ahead for anything now. However, her personal desires had to be suppressed. Thinking about him showing off for her, she slapped their face and put her desires away. At the age of 16, Tamon came all alone to Tokyo for his audition. His manager barely took care of him, and he didn't get along well with his fellow idols. It was given that he'd rely on a busybody fangirl who happened to come into his life, so she needed to work hard for him. Out of nowhere, a candid photo of Tamon popped up on her phone. She screamed, startling him. He found her quite interesting, especially the way she randomly yelled. Right now, she was special to him. Tamon was excellent at fan service, hence why he could say stuff that made her so happy. Earlier on, she was just trying to escape reality. Utage thought she was so boring to talk to with her old friend who complained. When she'd been flattened like an empty husk, that's when she came across Tamon on TV. Hearing him say, "I want to make everyone smile," was something she wouldn't find herself uttering even in 100 years. Ever since then, her days have been so fun. His dream became her dream. That was why she didn't need to be special. Just having him show her his dream was enough, or so she thought. Seeing he was wearing the necklace they got at the mall, Utage started blushing. She felt something she couldn't describe. Alright, another great episode in the books. I like where this is going, with us getting a little background details on how her obsession for Tamon developed. It's going to be great setup. Subscribe for next week's part, but for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.